the only football channel. I'm still Kyle, and this is still the only football. Uh, okay. Before I do a normal, formal introduction like normal, I have to say every year the schedule comes out around this time of year. It is fluid, right? But for the most part, by now, and I don't know what kind of sources other people have, but by now, I normally have a pretty good idea about most, I would say 80% of the matchups. Okay. And if you're a fan of this channel, then you saw that I was just mentioning it. What was it? Not our last episode, but the episode before, how I would do my very best to make sure that I could get my same sources that leaked everything last year. I was going to go check up on those, see what's going on. Not only a day later did we find out that the NFL was going to release the schedule on Thursday. It's like we had that internal clock that was going off that we're getting kind of close, right? Well, the NFL letting us know that they're releasing the schedule on Thursday on a Monday was very intentional, because when I did go back and look for the leaks, I was surprised to find out that there wasn't much there. Okay. And I was thinking, maybe my source got lucky because last year was the only year that I saw this person. I would say their name, but I don't want, I don't know if this person can get in trouble. I think legally they can. So we got Bill in the chat. What's going on, Bill? He said, and we are fans of the channel. I was waiting in the queue before I even saw the Twitter post. Damn, Bill, I love you. Thank you for being here. Well, I wanted to do something special because, like I said, I wasn't really sure if it was just that my source got lucky last year, because I'm telling you, 90% of the games were correct. I read them all and I didn't really trust it. And then the schedule really got released and I went back and I compared it. There was nothing wrong. Maybe one game was a Thursday night instead of a Sunday, something like that. But I mean, it was pretty freaking spot on. So when I went back to it, I was trying to see, because like I said, we just talked about it and I said I'm gonna give it another look. And then Monday comes and the NFL's like, we're releasing the schedule in 4 days. And we've normally had a bigger heads up ahead of the NFL releasing their schedule. And I kind of was like, okay, what gives? And then on top of that, I look back on my source and there's like 3 games. There's a couple of games where we know one of the team and we don't know who the opponent is. And then there's a couple more games. I just thought, well, that's kind of weird because when we were 2 days away last year, this was packed. Then I turn on the Rich Eisen show today. Okay. And Rich Eisen is basically explaining that he's been doing this for like 22 years. And this was the first year that he ever had to sign a non-disclosure agreement saying that he would not release any details of the NFL schedule. So the people in the media are signing these non-disclosures because people like me were getting their dirty paws on them and telling all of you guys what I know. And Rich was saying, yeah, it used to be people would come in and be like, come on, who are the Giants playing? And this is the first year where it's like, no, legally they can't tell you anything. Okay. So with all that said, that is why the NFL waited until Monday to tell you that it was being released on Thursday, because it's more controllable when there's only 3 days from the moment they say it to the moment they release it. So it's not a coincidence that we're having a harder time finding these games. This is all very methodical and planned out by the commissioner and the powers that be. But what the non-disclosure agreement didn't account for was Jason and Travis Kelce's mother, who I won't quote here. I will read verbatim. This is what she said, okay? And she's probably in trouble, and I'm sure they tried to take it down. Okay. This was today. Okay. So while I look for it, I'll let you know right away that she leaked some stuff. The Chiefs are going to be playing the Bears, and here it is. Okay, Donna Kelce. This is Travis Kelce, and I'm drawing a blank. The center for Phillies, the brothers. This is their mother. Chiefs Germany game in November. Now, right off the bat, I gotta believe that this is one of those things where they both told her and just assumed that she knows that it was a secret, because she is not hiding any of this at all. Chiefs Germany game in November. The Chiefs will be playing the Bears. So she just goes out there with it right away. This was previously reported in early April, so it feels like a lock at this point. It's almost like she is our source. That's how she's talking. Both games will be played at Frankfurt Duchess Bank Park, making the first time in NFL history that Frankfurt has hosted a regular season game. The Buccaneers Seahawks game last year was the first. And then it goes on to say the two games will be played in consecutive weeks, with the first one coming on November 12th, week 10. So September 12th, week 10, the Chiefs will be playing the Bears in Germany, followed by another game November 19th. So the two games are happening in Germany are happening week 10 and week 11, okay? Now the second week in the second game that's going to be in Germany, it says one thing is not clear which game will be in that slot. Last year's game was played in week 10, so it wouldn't be a surprise for the NFL to stick us with a similar timeline. The Chiefs will also be heading to Germany in 2024. For that game, they're expected to play the Panthers. Okay. So first off, let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that Donna Kelce is leaking the schedule to us. Does she go into the Hall of Fame for this? Definitely the Internet Hall of Fame. Bill said releasing info to the press early and having it under embargo legally keep it secret until a certain date and time, then the reporters can release the info. Right. And we know what that date and time is, and that's Thursday. Now, the NFL, you could say it's because of Donna Kelce. They probably will never admit it, but they said after this happened, look, Donna Kelce posted this 4 days ago. 4 days ago. And the NFL just released a statement that tomorrow they're going to release all of their international games. So, coincidence? I'm not sure. Okay. But then this is why I believe that she's a little oblivious to what's going on right now, is because Sean Young, some random person, commented, and he goes, looks like a great chance for the Eagles play New England and Germany. Apparently, we were to play one of them in Germany, and I figured we'd open the season with KC. That being the case, no shot they'd put that game in Germany. You may have 2 trips overseas this season. And Donna Kelce. So this guy is saying, I think that they're going to play the Eagles-Chiefs game in Germany. And then Donna Kelce goes, Chiefs play Eagles week 2 in Arrowhead. I mean, this is like the definition of I said too much, but you have no idea what you're doing is wrong. So there you have it. Chiefs Eagles week 2 in Arrowhead. And that is the game that I wanted to talk a little bit about, since that is one of the few that we do know about. And I also wanted to take this time for anybody that does pop up in here to tell me. For most of you, I already know who your favorite team is, but yesterday I went through a strength of schedule metric, and we're getting really close to the schedule release, and this may be my only opportunity to do this. So I was going to go through the opponents list because, look, the strength of schedule, really the only thing they use to measure it, from what I understand, is the wins and losses from the previous season. But there are teams like last year where Jacksonville had way more wins than they had the previous year, right? Miami was, a good team when Tua was healthy. The Jets started 7-1. The Giants went to the playoffs. If that doesn't tell you how much changes in 1 year, I don't know what will. And the fact is, whether we go off the wins or losses from last year or not, we do have to keep in mind that the same way the league changed last year, it is changing this year. Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets. The Packers will fall back. Lamar Jackson, has weapons. The Panthers have a quarterback. Whatever it is, we can never really get a true measure of the strength of a schedule by only analyzing the wins and losses your opponents had the previous year, right? If that were the case, then the Giants and the Jets were supposed to be an easy game last season, and it turned out that that wasn't the case. So rather than, going off that strength of schedule thing, for the people that love this channel, I wanted to do a realistic assessment as much as I can. Obviously, there are going to be surprises, but we can at least account for the things that are not going to be accounted for in most of the strength of schedule predictors, okay? So right off the bat, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Commanders. This is going to be a tough division. The NFC East is no longer the NFC least. The Dallas Cowboys in the last 2 seasons average more points than Kansas City and Philadelphia. Okay? If you just found that out, welcome to the club, because I found that out a couple hours before I went on here. I believe it was like 29.8 points per game, and then the Chiefs were right behind with like 29.4. Okay? Now, I do expect this Dallas Cowboys offense to regress a little bit, okay? Now, look at the thing with Zeke. Although he wasn't putting up great numbers, they're still getting rid of a guy that had a lot of the red zone touchdowns. Tony Pollard is great, but is he even going to be healthy? He, broke his leg. When it happens in the playoffs, the Super Bowl, look at Odell Beckham last year with his ACL. I know a broken leg's a little bit different, but who knows if he's even going to be 100% to start this whole thing off. The Philadelphia Eagles, I can't say enough about. They're going to be a good team, okay? So if I had to rank the team right now, this division, I would probably go Philly, and then I have a kind of a toss-up between I want to go Giants number 2. I do, just because the Giants had a good draft, okay? And there's a little bit of boom potential with this team this year. And I do think the Dallas Cowboys are going to come back a little bit because, look, their offensive coordinator is now the Chargers offensive coordinator, okay? And that guy was interviewing for head coaching jobs. So if the Cowboys are coming back a little bit, and then look, who do they have on the receiving core? If CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, who's their best option? Turpin? Is Turpin going to be like, there is a lot about the Cowboys where it's starting to feel like they're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. I've never been really sold on Dak being a guy that is just going to say, "Let me put the team on my back and take these Cowboys deep in the playoffs." This is somebody that just got his first win against the worst team that existed in the playoffs, which was Tampa, that got in by default, literally. Um, so I do think because the Giants, yeah, they ended the season. Um, they ended the season losing pretty bad. But and I will say Dallas lost to the 49ers, and for what it's worth, we don't really know who the better the 49ers Philly game would have been. We didn't have Brock Purdy, so it is hard to gauge that type of comparison because if we knew the 49ers were about as good or better than the Eagles and Dallas played a close game, I would assume Dallas is better since the Giants weren't able to play a close game. But we don't have that luxury. So I'm just going to say, as of right now, I'm going to say that Giants are probably the second best team in the division. The Cowboys are, if they're in a window, I guess I'm the only one that doesn't see it. And I wasn't too high on them last year, and they proved me wrong. Bill, say it. Say it. Giants, sure. We'll go number 2 for now. Okay? And I wasn't too high on the Cowboys last year, and they proved me wrong a little bit. They won a lot of games, but they also won a lot of their games without their quarterback. If you remember, Dak went down with an injury week 1, and the Cowboys were like 6-1 by week 7, and Dak hadn't even played. So, yeah, I do think that the Giants have that potential. The Commanders, I don't know. I might be getting biased, but I'm just never interested in the Commanders. I don't like their uniforms. I like some of their players, but once they put on that uniform, it kind of gets hidden. Like if Terry McLaurin played for the Chiefs, oh my God, could you imagine? But he doesn't. He plays for the Commanders, and that happens with all the other talent that the Commanders, the few amount of talents that they do have. So I'm going to say that the Commanders are definitely the worst team in the division. Bill said he said it. Yes, they were 100% better than us last year. But I just compared the depth charts because you mentioned about if like CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, and I think we could be better. Right. And no, obviously I'm not hoping that anybody gets hurt, but depth is very important. The NFL will never have a season that a team does not suffer injuries. That is the nature of the beast. And that is why the teams that have the most depth succeed through those, through the storm. Because I've been a part of teams that had no depth. And as soon as, that guy and that guy and that guy got hurt, it was practice squad, third stringers, undrafted free agents, not hitting on undrafted free agents. Some of them are great, but you get what I'm saying. So moving out of the division, because obviously they have 3 home games and 3 away games with the Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders. Okay. The Los Angeles Rams, they're playing the NFC West. Okay. So the Los Angeles Rams at home, I think that's a dub. That Sean McVay is a great coach, and I do think that this team is going to battle again. But I just think that there's too many holes on the team right now. I think the Rams are going to be a 6-win team. The Seattle Seahawks at home. This will be a really fun game, and in a way, this will probably be a revenge game for the Seahawks. They will probably look at it like that because I believe it was the Giants that came into Seattle last year around week 6, week 7, and they had a convincing win against the Seahawks, who the Seahawks were, I believe, still thinking that they could be good at that time. And the Seahawks are going to be better. Like, you talk about a team that got better through the draft. I have to put the Seahawks out there. They grabbed the best wide receiver and the best cornerback in the draft. That has to stand for something. And Bill said, depth was our biggest issue. We played with our practice squad. Yeah. And the same thing happened to Tennessee. And Mike Vrabel is a hell of a coach, because the fact that Tennessee didn't have the first overall pick this year is a tell sign of how great Mike Vrabel really is, if you look at what Tennessee went through. But I do want to say that I had an opportunity to interview a Detroit Lions fan. It was kind of a sneak peek of a longer interview we're going to do. We were walking up and down a football field, and I kind of had a flashback to a younger me. Now, I'm pretty sure that me and him are the same age. I'm not sure exactly, but it was like everything that the Lions did was a home run. I mean, he's like, yeah, so we got rid of, what's his face to go to Philly. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The Lions, out of Georgia. Whatever. They sent him over. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it. And then they get the running back out of Alabama, Jameer. And then what was it that they made a couple more moves? I haven't followed the Lions that closely, but he starts talking about once, he goes through every player that the Lions drafted, and he's like, oh, this is a genius. This is genius. Oh, we got this tight end, so we don't need Hawkinson. Everything is perfect, right? DeAndre Swift. So he goes, everything that we did is perfect. And he goes into the undrafted guys, and he's like, oh, this running back, I can't believe he wasn't drafted. And I was like, look, I remember being at that stage where everything that the Broncos touched or took a chance on or drafted was gold, and that we see something in him that the rest of the world doesn't, kind of like sports betting. You really feel like you know something that no one else knows. But the kind of sad part of the truth is it's very rare to have a draft where it all works out. And that is why I've become more of a prove it person, because I spent a lot of my football years just kind of crowning people immediately as they come into the league. Like the wide receiver out of TCU, Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson got taken in, I think it was the first round, and he was out of TCU. He's a big receiver, 6'4", 220 pounds. Like, this dude is a big dude. And TCU had a good receiver, and this guy was projected to, go in the first round. And then you sit and you watch the tape on him, and look, everybody out of LA was like, oh, this is a great receiver, this, that. And Bill thought I was picking on him because I was mentioning Jalen Hyatt. But it's not that you're picking, it's that when the draft is coming up and it's approaching, that is the best those players will ever be. The day after they get drafted, that is when people, they'll still be high for a couple months. But once football starts, we're going to find out what the flaws are of these people. And I'm telling you right now, the receiver out of TCU, he's a big guy, but if you run his tape, there is even a pass that was probably a 40-yard bomb that he catches it over his right shoulder in the back of the end zone. And it's on his highlight tape. But any receiver coach, and the one that was going through this was Steve Smith, he was saying a big receiver like that should be hitting the ball at its highest point, jumping up, using his big body. It's great if you're a receiver that's really big, but you have to know how to use your body. You have to be fluid in the hips. You have to be able to be aggressive and get those 50-50 balls. And I'm thinking to myself, where have I not seen all this? Like, I didn't see it until he said it. And then I started watching the tape and I could see it. I'm like, there are times where he's running a 3-yard slant and the first down marker is 3 yards. We're talking 3rd and 3. And he busts the slant and the ball is thrown and he waits for the ball to come to him and the defender comes in, slaps it. It's like, you have a wingspan of 6'11". Get those arms out there, grab that ball, and you're supposed to meet the ball. He's just very passive. Let the ball come to me. Doesn't understand that type of situational football. And I just didn't see that in his draft reports and stuff like that. So I do think for every highlight that we watch of a player that gets drafted, we should also watch something that shows what they need to improve on. And if you can't find anything they need to improve on, there you go. That is your guy that you don't have to worry about. That is your Patrick Surtain. That is your whoever it was this year, the cornerback that went to Seattle. I think he went to Mississippi State, or he was the one that went to, I can't remember the guy right now. Sorry, it's been a long day, but there's only a couple. So if you're in the 4th round and you're still thinking that you landed one of those guys, you might want to go outside and touch some grass, because you may need to reel it in a little bit and have some realistic expectations. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying we had a great draft because we were in the 4th round and we got talent that was projected to go in the 2nd round. We got a lot of value for our pick. Now, that's a totally different thing. I can get behind that. And that's why I said Giants get an A. But having a good draft and putting a good product on the field, it seems like they would be synonymous, but they're really not, because a lot of times people have great drafts and they don't work. Why in 2007 that the Cleveland Browns picked with the first overall pick a defensive player that everybody agreed this player is bust proof. This player cannot go wrong. This is a grand slam home run. There's everything he does right. The guy ended up playing like 11 games. He didn't even finish his rookie contract. And I'm going to pull up his name really quick because you guys might remember who I'm talking about. First round bust. It was considered one of the worst. Here it is. Cleveland's first overall picks. I didn't even look up first round bust. Okay, here we go. So 2007, they drafted, is that Phil Taylor? No, I don't think it was Phil Taylor. Is this overall on the left side? Yeah, pick number. So this was, I believe, the first pick in the draft. Courtney Brown. That was his name. Courtney Brown. Does that ring a bell? That was the year 2000. Does Tim Couch ring a bell? Because the year before that, Cleveland drafted number 1 overall again, and they got a quarterback, Tim Couch, out of Kentucky. So if you ever need, to feel like maybe, there's a little more potential for these picks to go wrong, all you have to do is go look at some previous drafts. It's one thing when you have a general manager and somebody over the player personnel that has proven themselves to do pretty solid in the draft. And even those guys you see are, have human moments where they take the wrong guy. Like the Seahawks, I'm more inclined to believe that the players they chose this year are going to work out because of how well they drafted last year. right? Um, and then you just have teams that kind of get in a good groove where it seems like everything they do is hitting. Detroit kind of feels like that right now, where they're just pulling a lot of talent, but there was, still a couple things that they did. But like I said, I just think that it's important to be realistic, and I say that as kind of like a preface to me um, kind of predicting what these teams are going to be, so I don't get you know any terrible internet messages like, "Did you not see who we picked?" Um, I have a lot of respect for picking good talent, but I don't hold it way up here. To be quite honest, in some cases, I value free agents more than I do draft, just because I know who they are. Jadeveon Clowney is still available. He never lived up to his number one potential, but if he was on my team tomorrow, I know who he is, and I would like him to be there. You see what I'm saying? So I guess you just kind of know what you're getting. Um, and the draft is such a toss up. So they're going to play the Seahawks. I'm going to say that one's a toss up. Okay. I don't know. The Giants are playing at home, but the Seahawks got a pretty good squad. It'll depend on if that game is in the beginning of the season. I would be probably more inclined to go Giants, just because I've noticed that home field advantage is sometimes more of an advantage within week 1 to week 3 than it is from week 8 to week 12. It's kind of that dry period where it's not the end of the season, because then you get that boost again, especially if you're approaching playoffs. And I know the good home fields are always going to be rocking, but there is just something a little extra in those first couple weeks. Nobody wants to start a season 0-3 or 1-2. So yeah, that one I think is a toss-up. The New England Patriots, I'll take the Giants there. The Patriots, they just didn't do a good job. Their draft was fine. They got Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. He was one of the best corners, but they didn't really make any huge moves. I know they got Mike Gesicki from Miami, but I do think out of that division, we talked about it yesterday, the Patriots are going to have, I think, another rough year unless Bill Belichick proves that he is the real deal. But he hasn't been able to do that yet. So really, I think the X factor in the Patriots is Bill O'Brien and what he can do with Mac Jones. Because Mac Jones out of college, he had like the highest completion percentage of any prospect. I heard that a couple days ago, and I never typed it in Google. So you can fact check me on that. But obviously there's something there. The guy went to a Pro Bowl his rookie season. So yeah, I would say the Patriots are beneath where I think the Giants are right now. The New York Jets. The New York Jets, I think, are going to I think they're going to win most of their games. I think that they'll probably lose around 5 games this season, and without pulling up their schedule, I'm not sure if this would be one of them, but I do know that the Giants are going to be playing it at home. So, like you said, Bill mentioned that the Jets may be playing the Giants week 1. I think if it's a week 1 game, that'll probably be your best chance to win. Because week 1 is just different. It's just different. And you don't want to be the guy that's on a brand new team that's going on the road week 1. So Bill said, with you on the Seahawks, Witherspoon. Yep. SN. What's the third part of it? SNS. No. JSN. They will also be better next year. I don't think the week 1 thing is going to happen, LOL. Bill's taking it back. I was kind of running with it. I liked it. Made sense. But yeah, I think that would be the best chance. if you can get this game early on when Aaron Rodgers is still trying to form some kind of rapport, that would be probably the best case scenario. Then you got the Green Bay Packers. And this one says NFC North same place finisher. Oh, okay. So you have the way the schedule is made is that you play certain different divisions and those alternate. So I believe it's every 4 years the Broncos play the Packers, the NFC North, and it's always turning. But then you have the teams that you play because you're kind of you're chosen a division, and you have to play the person that finished at the same place that you finished. So Green Bay finished in the same place that the Giants finished. But obviously, this is another one of those perfect examples. The NFL does this stuff to make it seem as even as possible. But look how different the Packers are than they were, when this schedule ideally was out. So I think if Aaron Rodgers had stayed on the Packers, this game seems like a really, really even type game because Aaron Rodgers, there's always a chance. Giants seems good, but Jordan Love, look, we don't know anything about Jordan Love, but I'm probably one of the only people I know that feel good about Jordan Love, and I may be proven wrong, and I'll stand corrected if that happens. But as of today, I think Jordan Love is I think he's going to be all right. There's been a lot of players that were stuck behind talent and they weren't seen, including a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is too crazy of an example. Kirk Cousins, who was behind RG3. I could see it being more something like that. So the away games. Now, it's already tougher to go on the road than it is to be at home. And it's a lot more tough when you're playing the hardest opponents on the road. And that's kind of what happened to the Giants. I do think it's very important for the Giants to protect their home field because if they can at least lock up these games that we just went over, they could definitely win a couple on the road here. But it's going to get harder. So they got the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Commanders. Those are road divisional games, rival games. They're not going to be easy. Okay. Now here's the one that you got to take. The Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are, they're in full rebuild. So I don't see an issue with that. But then you got I almost hit a 3-game stretch, but gosh, the NFL, if they put these 3 in order, that'd be brutal. We'll find out in 2 days. You got the San Francisco 49ers on the road, okay? I think the 49ers are going to win most of their games. I would take the Niners in that scenario. Then you have next the Buffalo Bills. Like I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. I think Buffalo with Josh Allen gets that one. Then the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Okay, if this is an early game in the season, the same thing that happened to Buffalo last year could happen to the Giants. It is so hot and humid there. And the way Miami designed that stadium was that they have their bleacher section is the only part of the stadium that's shaded. So there can be a 30 to 40 degree shift in temperature for the away and the home team. So if you get that game in September, I'll take the Dolphins, especially because it's more likely that Tua is healthy in the beginning of the season. The New Orleans Saints, NFC South, same place finisher. A lot of people I found are getting pretty high on the Saints. Mickey Loomis is a good GM, so I do think that the ball club will be ready to go, but at the same time, they have a head coach that hasn't proven anything. Derek Carr is the quarterback now that feels in a way that it's the first type of permanent solution since Drew Brees retired, and that should help them. And the Saints aren't a very weak division, and they are going to be at home. And you know how the Superdome can get if this is a primetime game. This game, I want to say this game has Thursday night vibes to it. Okay. But if you're a Giants fan, you don't want this game on prime time. Or maybe you do, but just know the stadium will be louder. And then last, you have the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are going to be good. Josh McDaniels just has a way of blowing everything up everywhere he goes. So, all in all, I think that this year is I would say 10-7 feels about right for this team. Because I can go in here, let's say you split with the Cowboys. Let's say you take the Commanders twice. You beat the Rams. You beat the Patriots. You beat the Packers. Okay, let's say you beat the Cardinals. And you beat the Saints and the Raiders. You're at 9 wins. Okay, so all you have to do basically at that point is win one game. That you steal a game here and there. So I would say I would say if I had to put a window, I would say your low is 8 and the high would be 11. So I hope that is good enough for all the Giants fans out there. Bill said, just sent you my picks and I'm being optimistic. Sent graphic to your Twitter post. And here it is. Okay, I see it right here. Giants. Okay. So this is what you're thinking. An L to the Cowboys, an L to the Eagles, a win in the Commanders, a win. The Packers, a win against the Jets. That would be one that you stole. A win against the Patriots, Rams, an L against the Seahawks. That's interesting. I would think that the Jets would be the L and the Seahawks could be the W. And then the Cowboys get it. So you split with the Cowboys, you double lose to the Eagles. And then, so let's see, you lose to the 49ers, you lose to the Bills, you beat the Dolphins, you beat the Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Saints. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right, and that is the high. That is the high I had, and that would involve stealing one, right? Because in this case, whether it's the Jets game or the Dolphins game, if it's early in the season, you're going to have to go in there and steal one. And the Packers are always going to play the Giants tough. That is a traditionally tough game for both parties. So I do expect that game to be really good. I would like to see it on Sunday night. And I think that could go down as the Packers primetime game is the Giants and the Packers. So, yeah, I don't even think that is crazy optimistic. You're returning a lot of players. You're adding new talent. You're in Daboll's second year as a head coach. He said, I think we're on the same page for the most part. You could swap the Jets, Seahawks. Just I couldn't stand losing to the Giants' little brothers. And not with Aaron there. They might not be little brother anymore. Yeah. And that is something that I think everyone's going to have to get used to when that week 1 kicks off and they go out there wearing the number 8 jersey and it says Rodgers on the back and he throws a pass to Garrett Wilson. It's going to be weird. And there was an article, or not an article, it was one of Rodgers' offensive linemen went on the New York radio channel and he said, it's just, I've never seen like a player so happy. And he says it's great, to be doing this profession for such a long time and to see somebody at 39 years of age that is still loving what he does and exciting. And that was the boost that I was referring to a couple episodes ago when I said sometimes change is good. And as much as it's great, there's going to be some adjustments that may not go so well. Like the Jets owner is a very hands-on owner. He's doing laps around the practice field while they're practicing. If things aren't going well, he might be trying to change things up. This isn't Green Bay where, you can just kind of live in the shadows and ride your bicycle to work and, wave at the cars at the stoplight. This is New York City. And everything you do, whether good or bad, is going to be scrutinized. And scrutinized or over celebrated, right? The expectations when you do a move like this is to make the Super Bowl, nothing less. And anything less than that would be considered a failure by the Jets. So I do think, though, that if you had to take a quarterback right now out of any quarterback in the league that could handle highs and lows, I do think Aaron Rodgers would be probably my first on that list, just because he spends a lot of time kind of fine tuning his emotional intelligence, if you want to call it. Being present in the moment is kind of it's a way of life that he seems to like to practice, and that's what it's going to take. You can't go into the future. You can't harp on the past. You just have to be present. So that is the Jets and the Giants. I didn't go through all the Jets games, but I wanted to save some of those, and then I was going to do the Denver Broncos opponents, and Bill is already ahead of me, and I figured this is the perfect time for me to put this out there for the Denver Broncos opponents, because on a normal episode when we have a bunch of people crowded in here that want to know about their teams, I don't want to waste the episode because I can go long on the Broncos and I'll try not to, but it'll be better to just do it here. The Chiefs twice a year. Now on a normal year, I would say it's realistic to say that those are L's. And in a world where I'm not a Broncos fan, I'd probably say right off the bat, just put 2 losses on there and let's keep it moving. But to understand the history of what has been taking place, the Broncos have come very close to beating the Chiefs, including once they fired Nathaniel Hackett, they played the Chiefs the next week, and the offense looked totally different, completely different. Russell Wilson was throwing touchdown passes. I mean, it was an exciting game. The Broncos tied the game. We were deep into the third, and I remember even the announcer saying, if you would have told me last week when they fired Nathaniel Hackett that Denver and Kansas City, and Kansas City was at home, will be deep into the third and we'll have a ball game, I would have said you're nuts. And it's not just about, the fact that we want to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs have beaten us 12 times in a row. So for the last 5 years or so, every time the Broncos go to play the Chiefs, it's hashtag beat the Chiefs. It's just this monkey that Denver has to get off their back. And if you ask any Broncos fan, what's the best thing that could happen this year? As crazy as it sounds, I really believe that most people would pick beating Kansas City over anything else, probably besides making it into the playoffs, because there would be a chance to beat them in the playoffs. So, with Sean Payton's coming in, the first thing he does is put that car in front of the practice center, no rear view mirrors. And the message is we're not looking backwards, we're looking forward. And I do think Denver, for the first time since winning a Super Bowl almost 7 years ago now, will get one of these games. And I'm torn on whether I want it at home for our fans or I want it on the road for their fans. But let me take one of these W's. The Los Angeles Chargers, I'll say we split because the Chargers have Justin Herbert. It's not going to be an easy game. I do think that the Broncos can beat the Raiders twice this year, so that would put us at 4-2. Then you got the New England Patriots and Chicago Bears. I'll take those 2 wins. So that would be 6-2. But then you have the Jets. That would probably go 6-3. The Lions. Let's say that it's on the road. Let's say it's too much, 6-4, and then they hit a bye week. Then they come out of it, play the Packers, go 7-4. Miami, I'll say that's actually a revenge game because Vic Fangio used to be the Broncos head coach, and now he's their defensive coordinator. And not only that, Denver traded Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins, and he's going to be there. So it's an away game. It's on the road. But I think I feel confident taking Denver in this game. Now, that Jets game, though, don't forget, it was only 1 year ago that Aaron Rodgers was flirting with the Denver Broncos, and then he left everyone in Broncos country hanging and said he was going to stay a Packer. And now our head coach, who we hired to lure Aaron Rodgers in, is the offensive coordinator for the Jets. This is a sneaky revenge game because Nathaniel Hackett didn't get a head coaching job, and we all forgot about that Aaron Rodgers drama. But this Jets-Broncos game is going to be very entertaining, okay? Minnesota Vikings, I think they get a dub. And then Commanders and Texans, I think, will be a win for both of those. Cleveland, I could see them winning. And then Buffalo, I'll say they lose that one. So 1, 2, say 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 12. I didn't realize that it was going to be so many. I'll say 11 and 6 could be in store. Like, I'm not trying to be a homer, but this is a team that just needed 16 points last season, and I just have to believe that with Sean Payton, Denver will be able to get themselves, 20 plus points every game. And I think the defense is going to continue to play strong. I think Denver is going to be the team this year that people thought they were going to be last year. DraftKings had Denver winning 11 games as the over-under to start the season. It was at like 10.5. So, look, let's just restart it. But now we have Sean Payton. I think it's gonna be a really good division. I think we're gonna have a lot of good matchups. The AFC West is gonna be an amazing it's gonna be primetime football every time. Whether it's Sean Payton and Justin Herbert, or you go with the Mahomes Herbert. The Raiders are good. I feel like the Raiders are probably the least fun team to watch, especially Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't really give you crazy entertainment vibes by any means. But that is honestly, when I look at it, there are a lot of tough games in that schedule, but there are also a lot of games that are winnable. And that is what makes me feel like Denver will be able to make it back to the playoffs. because there's no reason that Denver should be losing, in my opinion, to the Commanders, to the Texans, to Chicago, to New England, to the Raiders, either on the road or at home, and they shouldn't lose to Cleveland. They do have their tough games. The Chiefs twice, the Jets, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. That's 6 games that are tough. And if they can't win any of their tough games, I think that they should at least be able to win the other games. Sean Payton's not the kind of coach to just roll over and lose to the Texans. Bill said, you can cut paste the W's and L's where you want them. Making your graphic now. Thanks, Bill. And the last thing I wanted to do was to mention that tomorrow, as far as the schedule coming out is concerned, there's going to be the international games will all be released tomorrow. You can thank Donna Kelsey for that. Black Friday game is going to be revealed. That has apparently also been leaked as the Eagles. The other one is, it says select individual games. Wednesday on Fox and Friends and CBS mornings. Select individual games Thursday and on Today's Show and Good Morning America. So, look, international games, we know that we're limited to London and Germany, okay? And then Black Friday, we know that's just one game. But when they say select individual games, and they mention almost every channel, CBS and Fox, I mean, that's like 80% of the games. So how many will they actually reveal tomorrow? I'm not sure about that. But one thing I do know is that we'll be live streaming right here in the studio for the release of the games that will be announced tomorrow. And those games will be released at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is 5 p.m. local time. And I believe everything starts around 4. So we will be shooting live here between 4 and 5 o'clock and announcing every game as they come at us. And we got Philly Sports Talk podcast in the radio. You blended in really nicely with Bill's profile picture there. Didn't see you there. We are going through our team's opponents and trying to see if we got a shot. When's the last time the Giants won? I think that Super Bowl you sent me, where they didn't go back to the playoffs for a long stretch of time. That was actually the Broncos that they beat in that Super Bowl. So I just wanted to thank you for sending me that. I really do appreciate you reminding me of all the times Denver's lost in the Super Bowl. And then a quick news round off here, free agency tracker. The Buffalo Bills signed Kyle Allen. If you don't know who that is, I don't blame you, but I do because he was on the Denver Broncos roster. Damian Harris signed a 1-year deal. Okay, Damian Harris, this is a notable running back, okay? And Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray last year for Denver, when we needed him, we brought him in, flew him back to London where he just came from. He just came off the practice squad for the Saints, went in, scored some touchdowns, got traded to the Broncos. We flew right back to London. Latavius Murray, I wanted to see Denver keep him just because he gets those yards. He puts his head down. He'll get you 4-3 yards a carry. I know he's old and he's not Saquon Barkley, but he's definitely somebody you want on your team, even if it's only for depth. So the Bills got Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, right? These are not, you know, tiny signings. Um, I do think that as far as the Buffalo's 2023 free agency went, I think it went pretty well. They were able to return Deontay Hardy. They were able to get Connor McGovern, who is a pretty good offensive guard. They got Jordan Phillips to re-sign on the contract. The only thing they lost was their linebacker, who ended up going to Chicago. But then they were able to get Matt Milano, who signed a 2-year extension. So Tyler Bass, their kicker, agreed to a 4-year deal. Sam Martin used to be Denver's kicker. They got him on a 3-year contract. Remember, Buffalo had that kicker or that punter last year that was accused of sexual misconduct or the R word. And he was released like the next day. So they needed a punter. So I do think Buffalo did a pretty good job this offseason. Just keeping enough talent on that team. Eric Saubert was the tight end that Denver had last year. He was a good tight end. He's going there to replace Mike Gesicki to Miami. Raheem Mostert re-signed on a 2-year deal. Myles Gaskin re-signed with the Dolphins. Mike White signed a 2-year deal to be backup quarterback. Nobody knows how important that is more than the Dolphins. Malik Reed, another solid signing. And then obviously the big one, Jalen Ramsey. So I think going just the AFC East, I think Buffalo and Miami did pretty solid. And then the Patriots, James Robinson, I mean, he got traded to the Jets last year when Jacksonville decided to go with Travis Etienne full time. And James Robinson just kind of fell out of nowhere. I mean, New England did it again, man, where it's like every person they get is like somebody you know, but they're past their prime. And there are always players that are past their prime and they're young. Not like players that are past their prime like Campbell signing with the Falcons, where he's like 36, but he's still like, oh, that is a dude. Or like DeMarcus Ware signing with the Broncos last year. Not like that kind of past your prime. Like James Robinson past your prime. Mike Gesicki past your prime. Juju Smith-Schuster past your prime. There's nothing here that is really exciting if you're a Patriots fan. They really needed to get a corner. They re-signed a corner. Jalen Mills agreed to terms, but nothing crazy there. And then you got the Jets, who Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb, Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman, everyone knows him from playing with Patrick Mahomes. Expect Mecole Hardman to play a role in this offense. This wide receiving core for the Jets, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Mecole Hardman, you have Allen Lazard, you have Randall Cobb. I mean, there's a lot of options on this team now. Connor McGovern was the Broncos center. He has been with the Jets for, I believe, 2 years now. They re-signed him. But yeah, when I look at this free agent period for the Jets, I see a lot. They're getting ammo. They're getting a lot of ammo. A lot of pieces on the offensive linemen. They got 3 offensive linemen, a guard, and 2 tackles. Billy Turner signed on a 1-year deal for $3 million. A lot of good stuff there. And then the Baltimore, not a ton of moves, but they definitely they get a check mark for quality, not quantity. Lamar Jackson, the biggest one, Odell Beckham Jr., Nelson Aguilar, Rock Ya-Sin, Trayvon Mullen. I think Baltimore's doing all the right things, but this is what I wanted to end it on right here. The Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have been probably, I want to be careful how I say this because I know there's Patrick Mahomes people out there. The Bengals have the most talent on the offensive side of the ball than any team, I believe. Okay? So once in a while you get a team that's just like in a window, and you probably are wondering to yourself, how do they even afford all these guys? And it's only possible really when they're all super young. But when you look at them on offense, they lost Purine, but they have Joe Mixon at running back. They still have Irv Smith Jr. at tight end. Tyler Boyd is, in my opinion, the best number 3 receiver in the league. T. Higgins, who would be a number 1 on any team, and Jamar Chase. Then on the offensive lineman, which they solidified last year, they bring in Orlando Brown to make it even that much better. So you look at this starting lineup, I would take this starting lineup on offense over any offense in the NFL right now. I can win a Super Bowl with this one. So it was defense that they kind of needed to bolster up, and they did that. They added some good defensive pieces. If you look at the people that they drafted, and defensively, they had a really good draft on paper. Like I said, you still need to see how it unfolds and see that these guys can go out there and translate their game really well. But it definitely passes the eyeball test. And when we're talking about an AFC that gets Aaron Rodgers to come over, and the Bills aren't going anywhere, and Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere, and the Broncos get Sean Payton, and Tua has, the Miami Dolphins with that ridiculous amount of talent. They had Jalen Ramsey. There's just, the AFC does seem like the hardest path to make it to a Super Bowl. It seems like from the moment the playoffs start, even in the wild card round of the AFC, it does feel like whoever those teams are, that could be an NFC championship. I mean, look at Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. I expect them to make a big jump. The AFC is loaded. And if you gave me the playoff teams for the AFC next year, I wouldn't be surprised if any one of them made it to the Super Bowl. So the defense people that they drafted that I wanted to mention, because I just don't think that we really talked about that. The first pick they did was get Myles Murphy, who was somebody that totally fell. It says he wasn't dominant as a junior, which is why he fell, but there's a lot to like about him. He's going to be the trifecta to Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard and Joseph Asai. And now you're going to throw in, now you're throwing in Murphy. So I think Myles Murphy is going to immediately make an impact. Okay. Then in the second round, DJ Turner, who is the best cornerback that was on the board for a while. He's super fast. And there was the Bengals there to pick him up. Turner gives the Bengals more speed in the secondary. That has to be one of the fastest and most athletic groups in the league at this point. He's 22 years old. He thrives in man-to-man coverage and he should be able to compete right away, and he should start immediately. And he can also play both outside and nickel. So DJ Turner II was drafted with the 60th pick in round 2. He scored a 9.58 out of a possible 10 on the RAS, which is relative athletic score. This ranked 94 out of 2,222 cornerbacks from 1987 to 2023. This is a tier 1 athlete, okay? And then round 3, they stayed on the defense. They get Jordan Battle, the safety out of Alabama. And it was a little bit surprising, but it's easy to see why the Bengals went and grabbed him. And it's because he was the top player on the board by far at the time that they picked him. They had a second-round grade on Battle and expected him to fill out that safety position for one of these teams. And now here he is at the bottom of the 3rd round. So, I mean, that right there is an amazing pick. The safety out of Alabama, Jordan Battle. So we've already got 3 guys that can come in and contribute right away, ideally. Then they drafted a receiver, which a lot of people said it was their favorite pick because it was a perfect fit for Joe Burrow. It's the receiver out of Purdue, Charlie Jones. He's super fast. He's a great route runner. He's got good length for his size. He had 110 receptions, 1,361 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And another person that they're saying should be an instant contributor returning punts. And he has a chance to win the 4th wide receiver job behind, obviously, the big 3, Jamar Chase, Deegan, and Tyler Boyd. He's got a 4.43 speed, which isn't crazy fast, but it's pretty damn fast. So that's the first time they went offense. And then because Pirine went to Denver in the 5th round, they got Chase Brown, the running back out of Illinois. This guy was pretty damn good too. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry, and he has hands. He kind of felt like a poor man's Bijan Robinson, but not in a bad way. Look up Chase Brown highlights. You'll be surprised because I know I was. And then they went receiver, punter, and then they got, with the last pick, they got another corner. But I just was not – I don't know why I was sitting here streaming the draft, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me how well the Bengals did defensively. And I guess when your offense is as stacked as they are, it is very easy to just focus on one side of the ball. And maybe that wasn't even the plan. Maybe the plan was just to get the highest value at their draft position. But regardless, the Bengals got 3 guys on defense that should come in and start immediately at cornerback, at safety, and at defensive end. So as long as we're sitting here talking about, all these powerhouses and the New York Jets and Kansas City because they won the Super Bowl, we can't forget that Joe Burrow is only 1 year removed from being at the Super Bowl himself. A bad penalty for maybe going 2 years in a row. And this team got, I'll say, more than a little bit better. So, man, when you look at the AFC, it's kind of it's almost admirable that Rodgers chose the AFC because it is definitely it is a better time and age to be a quarterback in the NFC. When you look at the NFC quarterbacks, I mean, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Brock Purdy, yeah, these are good quarterbacks, but we're talking about like different dudes over there. Daniel Jones, has proven himself, but he, still is not elite. Jalen Hurts is elite. I'll definitely give you that. And then Dak Prescott, and then whoever the Commanders go with. And then Jordan Love, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins. You see what I'm saying? It's just the NFC for a quarterback. I mean, he decided to go into a very crowded room. And I've said kind of from the get-go that the Eagles are probably going to be my Super Bowl favorite. I really have to sit down and ponder it and look at a lot of things. But when I look at the AFC, I have a hard time going against the Bengals. So I'm not confident that there would be a Super Bowl rematch, but Bengals-Eagles seems very plausible after the draft they had and that guy Joe Burrow under center. So tomorrow we will be back inside of the studio, and we are going to be covering all of the games that are going to be released live. If you guys don't have a home for that big release, find your home right here. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out when we're going live. We'll make sure that we title the video letting you know what it is that's going on. So there will be the live stream tomorrow, and then Thursday, the NFL is going to release all of the games. So Thursday is probably going to be the heftier bulk of the two, and we're going to sit here and go through them, and then we can start, really breaking this stuff down. Like when is our team going to have a bye week? What games are going to be on prime time? What are the stretches of hard games? What are the stretches of easy games? Is there a bye after going overseas to London? All that stuff, we're going to figure it out right here. And if you guys want to make this your home, we can go over your team in fine detail when that schedule comes out. So that is all I got. Once again, thank you guys for being here, supporting this channel. And I will see you guys on the next stream. And until then, as always, go Broncos. See ya. Bye, Bill.